Hello and welcome back to my channel, Bookish Lady Night, where we get a look behind the book. Today I am absolutely thrilled because I'm joined by the fabulous writing duo, Piper Rayne, and they are the brilliant minds behind some of my favorite series, which include The Plain Daisy Ranch, The Nest, and their latest release, which is like the cutest Christmas story ever. Like if you haven't read it, you need to do it now, is Merry Christmas. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh,
Thanks for having us.
I was very excited. I reached out to him. I'm like, I hope they let me interview them because I love them so much. So I am very fangirling right now. So anyway, which I actually did. So if you want to see more of the Plain Daisy Ranch, I used that on my Fangirl Friday. So I did a feature of them. So if you want to learn more about their books, go to that one because it'll talk about all the books in that series. So on my Instagram channel. So okay, so I wanted to ask first is how you pick your locations for your books. Are they places you've been kind of and then you change it, or is it all just from imagination?
Say in most cases we have not been. I mean, Rayne lives outside Chicago, so that was an easy one. And we've been to New York many times, but Alaska, Rayne has visited many, many years ago, but she has some family that lives up there. I think for us, the setting is usually chosen by how well it's going to complement whatever story we want to tell. Um, in Alaska, there's certain things you're going to be able to do that you can't do in New York City, depending on what type of story we're telling, and what type of activities we want the couple to be doing. Sometimes that will play a lot into where we're going to set the story.
Ah, that's awesome. So when you plan out a new story or a new series, do you do like a mood board or like do you have a goal in mind when you're starting that process?
We have actually different processes from the way we write. So whoever's doing like the lead on that series, like Piper's very much mood board. She's got Pinterest. She's like, and I am not. I am like fly blind, like just kind of what's in my imagination, which is like really good
Pantser.
and bad. Yeah, especially when you have like a partner, right? So
So what's the dynamic like with writing together?
It's great. I mean, we've been writing together for I think 8 years. I think that's our eighth year. So by now we've of course figured out what works best for us, which is generally one person will write lead on a story. When we start a new series or a story, we always sit down and have a big plotting session and talk about sort of what the series arc is, who the characters are, and specifically to that book, like what plot wise is going to happen. And then one person will write the lead on that story, the rough draft, and then give it to the other person who does the revisions. And then they work with the two editors through the edits and the proofreader. And then the person who wrote the rough draft will read through to be like, okay, like this is okay, like give their stamp of approval, so to speak. But through that process of writing, like we talk like constantly all day on Facebook Messenger. It's a lot of like, okay, I know we said we're going to do this, but I really think this is the way we should go now. And so there's a lot of back and forth during the writing process. And for us, that's just what's worked best. We produce a lot of books a year, and we've tried it a couple different ways over the years, but this is I think the way that is easiest and fastest for us to work. Yeah.
So you literally write like the both point of views and then the other person might like fill in where they see something that can be added
yeah.
essentially. That's cool. That's a really good way to do it. I actually haven't heard that. I interviewed another writing duo and they took each one wrote all of the male point of views and one wrote all the female point of views and then they like exchanged them and like melded them together. But that's a probably streamlined way to do it, especially because you're putting out a lot of books every year, which so
Yeah, we tried one time to do like the different POVs, and it honestly it took us longer, and it just
yeah.
it wasn't as easy for us.
Yeah. So, given that you've been together now with 8 years of writing, how do you guys celebrate your milestones?
Yeah, we're super bad at celebrating. Even our release days, I feel like half the time we don't even wish each other a happy release day. I mean, we're pretty bad at it, honestly.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like earlier days, we probably celebrated the milestones more. I mean, we acknowledge them, but like gone are the days where it's like, let's go out for dinner every time you release a book. And that I think because we release so many. I think this year we had 14 books released, so that's like a lot.
Yes.
Not that it's always exciting to release a book. It's not that it loses its shine. It's just we're so busy. I think it feels like there's not a lot of time to like pause. It's like literally like, okay, pause 2 minutes, have a conversation about it, and then we're moving. Oh, and by the way, we gotta do this, and someone's looking for this, and like,
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, that's really, you have a higher rate of getting stuff out, so it gets kind of to the sidelines for sure. Well, they're all great. I can attest to that. I think I've read most of the ones that have come out this year. So I love them. So I always like to ask this. It's just a fun question. What's your favorite beverage and snack while you're writing?
I have a Diet Coke addiction, so I am Diet Coke. And it used to be like Skittles, but unfortunately, like I'm trying to go on like a sugar thing, so I haven't had my Skittles lately.
Yeah, I am like, I really only drink two things, and that is water and tea. Like, I don't drink anything else. I don't drink juice or pop or anything. So, usually water or tea. And food wise, chocolate for sure. Lots, almost all forms of chocolate. And popcorn. That's another one I have a lot.
I am a popcorn girl. With some of your books, you have, more deep items in there, and some of them can be triggering. Do you ever struggle when you choose those types of tropes and writing them and making sure that you're like not doing them justice, but you know what I mean, where you're like being cognizant of them?
Yeah, I would say anything we write, we also write under the pen name Rayne, which is like a darker, like more angsty. That those books always will have heavier themes to them, so they're an entirely different thing. But the Piper Rayne books do sometimes delve into, like loss of parent, like just there's like all kinds of. I'm just like, we have almost 100 books, so there's like we've kind of run the gamut of all things, and we try to be sensitive to the topics because of the type of books we're writing in Piper Rayne and the way we want people to feel while they're reading them. We don't delve too deep in them.
Yeah.
A lot of times it will be sort of a backstory thing, something that we don't see on page always like playing out, because then we would have to, of course, dive deeper into it, and it would probably, to do it justice, would become a different type of book than the experience we're trying to give people with Piper Rayne. But that doesn't mean that everybody's life in the book has been, hunky-dory their whole lives. People have issues that they bring to the table. So I think we do our best to do it justice. When possible, we have sensitivity readers who have experienced that type of thing read the book to make sure that we're sort of like on point, although everyone's experience is different, of course, but to try and either point out things we might have missed or things that shouldn't be in there. So we do our best with it, but I mean, we're not perfect.
Yeah, I remember in the Plain Daisy book 2.
Yeah.
I think that one's my favorite. I don't know, they're all my favorite, and I love your other pen name series too. I've read all those also. So I definitely enjoy those books too. It's so crazy to see authors like that write one way, and then you're over here and you're like, it's like you have two personalities kind of, and it's so great to see it. But I love those series also. So do you have a moment that you guys can recall where you were really proud of something that stands out to you in your journey?
I mean, I guess the obvious would be like, when you hit the USA Today list, or like HarperCollins picks up your book series, like they did with the Rayne. Those would be like the very obvious, like, you're proud of yourself because we've worked really hard for many years. I feel like the best moments though, and I think Rayne would probably agree, is when we get like an email from somebody who maybe is going through a difficult time, and they'll say like, I read this book, and whether it is sort of shadowing what they're going through in their life, or just like took them out of like thinking about what they're going through in the moment and gave them like 4 or 5 hours of like just enjoyment when they're having a difficult time. I think those are probably the most special moments for likely any author, honestly. And it's not so much you're proud, but it's like a good reminder of why you're doing this, why you're working so hard.
Yeah. So did you both always want to be writers, or did it just kind of happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we both have actually kind of funny, a similar story. I feel like that we had wanted to be writers when we were younger, and we didn't pursue that dream. I think we even both had dads that like pushed us to become writers that we didn't do. And then like later, we both found this later in life, right? So like we were both so it's like our second careers, I guess. You know what I mean? So yeah, so I guess we wanted to, but we pushed it aside. We went to school for different things, and then we kind of returned back to it later on after like a love for reading kind of came back, and then eventually stemmed into writing.
Yeah. So how did you guys meet?
We actually met back in the spring of 2013. We were both writing independently, like separate from each other, but we shared the same editor, and we were at our first book signing, and she was there as well. So she introduced us. And yeah, we just kind of became friends and kept in touch over the years. And so that's how we kind of stayed in touch from there. And then in 2016, we had kind of talked about writing together sort of off and on, but nothing like really ever happened. And then in 2016, I approached Rayne and was like, kind of like, okay, we're going to do this. Do you actually want to do this or not? And then here we are.
Hey, that's a great story. So, does writing energize you or does it make you tired?
That's a good question.
I think it all depends on the day and the scene. Like there are some scenes that you write that do energize you, and then there are some scenes where you're like, whoa, like that was like a lot. Or like either it's a struggle to get out and you're struggling with the scene and trying to perfect the scene, or it's just an emotional scene that might like make you a little bit more. But like I don't know, I love like the group scenes. So like for me to write a group scene that probably energizes me like a lot. You know what I mean?
And I hate writing a group of people. I like the one-on-one with the hero and heroine. I hate when there's like a lot of other stuff I got to worry about going on.
Right. Like I love the team banter. Like I love the sports and like the team and the team going back and forth with each other, you know. But
yeah, the banter in the nest is great. I love it. It's so good in that one. I really enjoyed it. I was laughing several times through that book because of the banter and them just giving each other grief. I just loved that. So what is your writing kryptonite? Do you have one that you can think of?
I think I can speak for both of us and say friends to lovers is like one we don't, our readers really like it. So we do write a lot of it, but it's not one that comes easy to us. It's a harder book, I think, just plot wise to figure out like why now these people have been friends for so many years. Why is now have things changed? So I will say I think that's sort of a through line through our careers is that we struggle writing those books a little more than some of the others.
So what's your favorite trope to write?
yeah, like I mean, enemies to lovers, brother's best friend. But I do love like fake engagement. I love like anything like the conflict is right there from the start, right? And like so, yeah, those are probably my favorite. I think Secret Baby. I'm really into the Secret Baby thing lately.
Yeah, I would say same for me. Like really, that's there's and revenge. We've written more on the P Rain side, like revenge ones, and I seem to enjoy writing the like revenge. Like he doesn't want to like her, but he likes her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. That one. And now I'm gonna space on the name in that series.
I think we have a few actually. We have like Vow of Revenge. We have Shattered Vows.
And yeah, Shattered Vows. Right. Yes, that one. I really enjoyed that one for sure. Do you guys ever have writer's block?
I feel like for me, it's probably harder to get it because you have a partner, right? So like if I get stuck, I like message her and I'm like, all right, we gotta talk this out. Or like, do you have any ideas for this? And usually that will like steamroll me out of it. I mean, there's been times when I've like felt like I've lost all my creativity or something, right? And I'm really just struggling through this book and it's like literally like page by page is like, oh my God, right? I don't think I've ever been blocked where like I could not write.
Yeah. Now I would say the same. It's like you have someone else relying on you and your dates with your editor and audio and everything is set. So even if I was feeling blocked on a story, I would still be writing. I would just be hating every second and feeling like it's excruciating. But I would still be writing and just thinking this is terrible.
You're hoping the person that comes behind you, you know what I mean? Like I hope that Piper that she's gonna really like push it and make it like a good book.
Yeah, I'd be like, well, Rayne's got her work cut out for her on this one.
So do you have like a daily word count or a scene or chapter goal that you aim for when you're writing?
Yeah, we're different on that way too.
I tend to write shorter chapters. I'm usually like my sweet spot I would say is like about 1,300 words ish to 1,500, 18 like max usually. And Rayne usually writes a bit longer chapters.
Yeah, I was like stuck on this. Like every chapter was going to be 2,000 words, and like I had to get as close to 2,000 words as I could. Like it was just like at first it came like just like regular. Then I think I like, but now like the Mr. Heartbreaker and the Nest, I changed it up a little bit, and then I think the one I didn't see coming maybe that like they were like a little bit shorter. I was like, okay, you're gonna be so proud of me. Like the chapters are a little shorter. Yeah.
When you are going through the process, because several of your books are audio, how is that? Do you enjoy that process of finding the narrator?
Yeah, I think like we just kind of listen. We have so many audiobooks that we know sort of like the narrators that we enjoy working with, but we're always on the lookout for new talent. So, but yeah, like sometimes sometimes it's hard to match up like a voice with like the person that you think, and sometimes these days we're having to choose narrators so far ahead that we have like a loose idea of the story and we're choosing a narrator before it's even written, so we're kind of going in the reverse. But it's always it's it's a different, a lot of people listen to both, but it is a different audience for audio, I find. So it's always great to see when the audio comes out, people like say how much they specifically enjoyed the audiobook experience. So that's always exciting, I think.
Yeah, I love both. So if you guys could go back in time and speak to your younger writing selves, would there be anything that you would tell yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think mine is like I've always had this, and I have the same thing for like someone that's just wanting to write is like just trust yourself and like don't listen to the reviews. I feel like after I released my first book, I really listened to the reviews a little too much, and then I changed a little bit, and I feel like just do what you will find your readers that love you, and like just keep on going. You know what I mean? Not that you shouldn't listen to like
Constructive criticism.
constructive
Yeah.
criticism, but like some reviews, it's just a preference, right, of what somebody likes and what they don't.
Yeah, I don't know what I would honestly, I like where I've ended up, so I don't know that I would change anything. If I was going to give myself advice, I would probably tell myself not to like write around so much. Like when I was writing on my own, I sort of was doing like romantic suspense, erotic romance, small town romance, new adult romance. Like I was just like wherever the wind of took me, I was writing that. So I would probably tell myself to be like, stick to one thing, like decide what you want to write and stick to that. But I tend to be like that still, anyways. These days, Rayne has to do a lot of like reining me in. So, because I can get off track, I sort of like wherever the muse is taking me this day. So, I would tell myself that, but I like where I've ended up. So, really, I wouldn't, if I really would not change anything, because I'm happy where I am.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. So, what is the most difficult thing about writing for you?
Probably the thing that's most difficult for every writer, which is to just sit down and do it. Like, it's as hard and as easy as just sitting down and doing it. Like, I like, honestly, I feel like the hardest thing about writing is the mental part of actually getting to the computer and doing it. That's my experience. I know it's a lot of others. I don't know if Rayne would agree, but
Yeah, no, for sure. Like I'm a procrastinator by nature, so like I will like the last 10 days to 2 weeks before a deadline, that's when I'm sitting down on my computer when I really should be sitting down 4 weeks before that, right? So like yeah, it's just really the dedication and like the sitting down and actually writing, no matter what, like no matter whether you feel the scene or you don't, or
Yeah.
just doing it.
Yeah. So on the flip side, what is your favorite part?
Yeah, I love like I don't know, like I love reading reviews where people say how much they loved like a character that you wrote that like you loved so much and you're just so happy like you were able to like get that on page for them to fall in love with that character just as much. You know what I mean? Like that's I feel like nothing tops that as a writer. You know what I mean?
yeah, I was gonna say like the connection you get to readers who like enjoyed your work is probably the best part. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you read a lot of reviews like or just right at the beginning when it's released, or do you kind of avoid it?
Yeah.
Just at the beginning when it's released, yeah, just to see sort of like what is the consensus. I mean, you'll always stumble upon them later, if you're looking for like marketing material or something, like you kind of got to go hunting. And so you will stumble upon ones sometimes years later and you're like, wow, okay, I'm glad I didn't see that when that book went out. Like, but yeah, generally just when it comes out, and obviously like when a book comes out, people are tagging you on social media more about a book and stuff. So we see those and try to always comment back and thank them for posting. But yeah, beyond like the first couple of weeks of release, then we're like really just focusing on the next book, honestly.
So with in writing, what's the most difficult thing you've experienced about writing the opposite sex?
I mean, it's hard to get into a guy's voice. You shut my door. Sorry. My kids are off school. Yeah, I would say like trying to get into a guy's head, right? Or like I remember when I was first starting out, I had my husband read my scenes, right? And then he would be like, "Yeah, a guy wouldn't like put this much thought into it," or like, your dialogue's a little long for like a guy. You know what I mean? So like, I feel like it's, I guess, getting him genuine, is me.
Yeah, I think for me, I actually like writing a lot of times the male POV more than the female POV. And it's not that I'm writing it like the way I think a man probably actually thinks. I'm writing it in the way I think us women want him to be thinking. So I actually enjoy writing the male POV. So for me, I often will have more trouble with the heroine in our books than I do with the guys. I don't know why.
Do you have like a favorite scene that you like to write?
Meet cute for me. I love a meet cute. That's my when I'm reading, when I'm writing, that's like one of my favorite parts of the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always just like the group of people, like the locker room scenes for sports, or like the guys getting together. Then like in big families, like all the siblings in there, like maybe a holiday and they're like arguing, or it's just like picking on each other. That's like my favorite.
Oh, I love that. That's really great. So out of all of your characters, I know this is a hard question. Is there one that stands out to you that you really love?
That is hard.
Hard. And we get it a lot. I mean, like I will say, like I loved all our reformed Playboys. I don't know what it is, like those guys always seem to be the ones that I'll remember like longer or something.
Yeah. I was gonna say the same. I was gonna say I think I have a certain type of character. Like I love Emmett, like reformed Playboy, like Dane, from Dirty Talker, like same kind of, Carm from, Dirty Flirty Enemy, which is the same kind of like sort of like a Playboy who like before the book starts is just like not willing to grow up, and then the book starts and of course, he actually does have the capacity to grow up and not be a Playboy.
When you're writing, do you take a lot of inspiration from people around you, or is it all strictly made up?
I mean, I always say like you'll see like maybe something I'm doing at the time of writing the book. Like if the characters are going bowling, maybe I went bowling, right? Or like if like something that I've done could end up in a book. People, I would say, is usually not.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I agree, especially because there's like two of us too, and we don't live near each other. So if I was to model somebody after someone in my life, Rayne wouldn't know who that person was except for how I described them to her, right? So you might have like little tics or habits like that you put into a character, but like a full like personality, I would say no.
Do you, because you said you both have kind of a different style with your writing, when you are in it, do you kind of know where you're going to put plot twists, or if it's going to have like kind of a cliffhanger-ish vibe to it? Do you already know that, or does it kind of just come up on you when you're writing?
Yeah, no, we already know before we start writing because we've plotted it out together. Sometimes it changes, like as you're writing, sometimes the characters don't come on page how you thought they were going to come on page, and so you're like, okay, this thing that we were thinking is not going to work anymore for these people, and so we'll just have another discussion about it, switch things up. So yeah, that is generally all decided ahead of time. Yeah.
When you're writing it out, do you map out, like for the series, do you go book by book, or do you do the whole series kind of as a map?
It's like a loose map of the whole series. Like, so we'll know like every trope, we'll know every character, we'll know like where the cliffhanger is going to be at the end of the book to go into the next book. But as far as their actual book, that's not plotted until right before we're going to write it. I think it kind of gets missed sometimes. You know what I mean? Like we know like pretty much what's going to happen, but the details will happen right before we write the book.
So you were saying like one writes one. So while one's writing one series, is the other one writing like the dark romance side, or like how do you decide that? Do you flip flop?
That's exactly what we're doing these days, is that one is writing a P. Rayne, and sometimes I'm generally writing a P. Rayne, sometimes I'm writing a Piper Rayne. But if it's a series, the same person usually will keep lead on that whole series. And that is just easier, more consistent, probably more cookies at the end of the day. Yeah.
Yeah. So with regards to, because you're doing books, do you design the covers of the whole series at once? And do you enjoy that process?
Yeah, I mean, like if we're buying, let's say we're buying like model photographs, we try to buy majority of them all at once, so we have the same feel, and then we send them to our cover designer. Yeah, I mean, I think we have I think the first cover usually dictates what the rest of the series will look like, right? So we'll send it to our cover designer. She'll come back with the first cover, and then that will dictate what the rest of the series will look like. Sometimes they're done all at once, and sometimes kind of like as we get to them. Especially with our longer series, we do like 3 and then 3 and then 3. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so they might get
a few of them at a time.
Yeah,
I love the dresses and the couples covers on Plain Daisy Ranch. Like I love those covers; they're so pretty. And then also the P. Rayne one, that Moonlit Thorns, is that?
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah, those covers for that series are gorgeous. Like I love those covers. So with the writing process, do you ever kind of struggle with the back and forth? Like, do you ever get stuck with a character, like where you can't hear their voices, or are they just really loud in your head?
Yeah, I think some characters just like pop off the page. That's just like the moment they show up, that's what they're like. I don't know. I don't have any reason for why that is. It just is. And others are more of a struggle. They just kind of feel really flat when you're writing them. If I'm writing lead, I'm always like telling myself, you do the best you can. But I know, because I do the revisions too, that like a lot of that stuff, the magic sometimes happens in the revisions when you can have like look at sort of like a whole overhead view of the book versus like while you're in the minutia of writing it. So I don't worry about it too much because I know that Rayne's going to come behind me and work her magic. So, but for sure, when you're writing, some characters just feel flat. They just don't have that like, that thing. And then some you just write and you're like, oh my God, like you just can't write fast enough because they're just like such a great character and they're just coming to you like fully formed. And that's amazing when that happens.
Yeah, that's like great.
If a character is like really loud in your head like that, do they ever like you had an idea to go this way and the character's like, no, 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 we're going over here? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Like, there's a lot of times we'll leave a message and I'll be like, yeah, this isn't going to work out. Like, it can go either way. Like, I remember we were doing like the Green, My Beautiful Neighbor. It was supposed to be My Beautiful Nemesis. And then, like, as I was writing, I'm like, there's nothing enemy about these two. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and then we changed it to My Beautiful Neighbor, right? Because he wasn't like popping off as much as, I guess maybe their like enemy connection wasn't popping off as much. They just seemed like good people together.
Yeah.
But then we had another one where I wrote, and the secondary character popped off, and I was like, I feel like he's stealing page time. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, of course he was going to get his own book, and he's one of the most favorite in that series. You know what I mean? But yeah, but usually around, I would say for me, like 60%, 70%, like the character can change what you think is going to happen, what we plotted. And then I'm messaging, Piper and being like, I think we got to go a different way.
Yeah. So in your opinion, what makes a great story?
Well, I'll tell you from a reader's perspective for me rather than a writer's, but for me, a story that makes me feel something like sometimes it's just happy and like, oh my God, these characters are so fun. Like I can't wait to get back to them and sometimes it's like, sometimes you throw a book your co-writer's way and tell her to read it. And then you have her sobbing because it's sad.
Yeah.
So I like any book that effectively, because I'm sure we've all read books where it's a good book, like you're reading the words, there's nothing like right or wrong about it, but you don't really like, you're kind of just like, meh, like I could put this down and not come back to it and it would be fine. Whereas I like a book where I feel something, whether it's like, just excitement to get back to the story because it's like a lot of fun, and whether it's like I'm looking forward to seeing what the twist is, whether it's like super sexy and hot, or if it's like really angsty and crying. So that's my preference, and what I hope we're doing with our books is like making people feel something.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely about like the world. So if you or the couple, like if I'm going to grab book 2 just to get a little bit more of that couple, then that must have been a great book, right? Like I always say, like if you give me a world that I just can't get enough of, and like that's good for me. Like I'm happy to stay there as long as you will keep writing.
Yeah. Are there any books that you have were your favorites, growing up or, through your career that have stuck with you?
I have favorite series. I would say I'm less of like a specific book favorite. I'm more of like, I love this series as a whole. So for me, like Karen Marie Moning's Fever series is a favorite. Sarah J. Maas's Throne of Glass series is a favorite. Karina Halley's Experiment in Terror series, and Cressley Cole's Immortals After Dark. Those would be like my 4 big favorites.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I still love Jill Chavez, her Lucky Harbor series. That's what made me first ever fall in love with small town romance, I feel like. I'm trying to think. I mean, like I did love Ravenwood's series, but that was like the latest series I think that I could not get enough of. It comes down to the world, like honestly for me. Like,
the world, yeah. Do you read when you're writing? Do you read when you're writing, or do you read like opposite genres than you're writing when you're in the process of it?
Like always reading. I'm almost always reading romance. Sometimes I don't read romance, but I'm not reading opposite. But I would say like if we're writing hockey romance at the time, I won't be reading hockey romance. And if we're reading, not that I even read a lot of that, but or if we were writing small town, like I wouldn't be reading a small town. So I would move to like a different category of romance while we're writing it. But I certainly still read romance when I'm writing.
Yeah, pretty much all romance. So I should say that Piper got me on the Throne of Glass series. So that's the one she was talking about the. I'm
She's
in that
early. No
world,
spoilers. No
in that
spoilers.
world right now. Yeah.
You're in that world right now. In writing, how does your life experiences, do you feel like that shapes your writing?
Mm-hmm. I think for sure. I will say, like, sometimes you're writing, of course, things that like you've never personally had, but I think one thing about being a writer is over the years, anyways, I find you get very good at getting in other people's heads, both in like real life, honestly, and in your work. And so I generally find it pretty easy. Like it's hard to explain, but like when I'm writing a scene from a character's POV, it's like really in my head. I'm like, I feel like I'm not thinking like myself anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I'm really connected to the character, if I'm not, then that's probably when I'm struggling. But when I'm really connected, it's almost like I'm like seeing the world that they're in, like in my head, like through a lens, like of their how they would view
Their
it.
glasses.
Yeah, versus like how I personally would look at something. And so, I mean, for me, that's what I would say for me, anyways.
Yeah, I think the same for sure.
Well, that's really great. It's like you put on their essence and then you're writing.
Mm-hmm.
So has a lot changed from when you first started publishing your books to now? Have you changed your process up a lot with how you do things?
If I go by like when we first started together, like in like disregard like when I was by myself, I would say I don't think that much has changed.
Yeah, no, I would say the market has changed more than we have changed what we do, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably the biggest change is like the romance market versus like how we go about getting our goods to the market.
Yeah. So since you're doing series, do you get them? I've heard other authors, they'll say like they write the first 2 or 3 books and then publish the first one. Is that kind of what you guys do, or just as you get them out, you publish them?
Yeah, I think we're a book ahead right now, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, yeah, we're just one book ahead. I mean, there were times we were a little bit more, but yeah.
Yeah. Does that like propel you forward? Does that give you a little bit more of a boost and you're like, okay, we got this, we're doing it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have our deadlines like because the pre-orders are up on all the vendors, and so it's like the book has to get written. And so I'm sure if we did not have those, that we would just like like sort of lollygag and it wouldn't be as quite as efficient.
Yeah. So that gives you your little push you need to like keep going.
Yeah, like we know what we're running for like the next year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when you are doing this for so long, do you do anything now to like make your craft better? Do you do like classes or anything like that?
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
craft junkies.
we're like class junkies. Yes, we're always doing something.
We're always taking, and I feel like craft calls to us more than
Marketing stuff.
when
Yeah.
maybe, but yeah, so I feel like we're always, and if one person says they're taking a class, we're like, oh, what class is it? I'm going to grab it too. We'll take it together. And sometimes I will admit the homework does not get done, but
Yeah.
I mean, like, but then other times we do, So I think
Which reminds me, you didn't send me those links to those classes we talked about yesterday.
right, yeah.
Has there been one you've really enjoyed lately?
I always enjoy Sky Warren always has good classes, and it's been a bit since I took one, but Margie Lawson also always has hers are super in depth, but they're really, really, really good.
Yeah. Took a conflict one with Sarah McLean, which was really great.
Yes, that's another one. Yeah.
A better conflict?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's really great. Do you guys do like a character interview or like a character profile, or did it just kind of come to you and you just go with it?
Yeah, I just kind of go with it. But I will say I did write like a backstory for Mr. Broody for like both of him and her because they just had like such a twisty path together. So I had to like I think get it in my head better. So I did write like a 2-page thing for each of them, like kind of like how they started and where they are now. But usually I'm not like I don't do like favorite color, favorite food or anything like that. Like something.
No, me either. I think we more focus on like what's the character's wound, like why do they feel, what's like their their lie that they tell themselves, what is it they really need. and that type of thing, more than like a character bio sheet, sort of, I guess, and a lot of that you discover sort of when you're writing, I find too. Like for me, I'll sometimes get about 10,000 words in, and then I'll be like, oh, okay, now I know this person. And like now I might have to go back and change something because now I really feel like I know this character a lot better. But yeah, we've never really done that kind of like character bio sheet kind of thing, I don't think.
Yeah. So I always like to ask, because it's this time of year, do you have any traditions that you guys are going to be doing for the holidays?
Yeah. I mean, like my family, we always like we cut down our own Christmas tree. Even though this year my mom was like, you really should think about artificial. And I was like, no, we really want a real one. But she's like, well, you better hurry up because Thanksgiving was late this year. I'm like, oh, I'm trying to think. I mean, we all decorate the tree together. Yeah. When I was younger, we used to go see A Christmas Carol all together. Like the whole family used to go see it. But we haven't done that in a couple of years.
Yeah. We do that. We cut down our own tree also. We always have, which I realize we have to pick those every weekend. So one of us, I have 2 children. So there's 4 of us in my house. And so we each get to pick a Christmas movie to watch. Like sometimes it's like The Force. My husband told me he's doing Rambo this year because like, I guess the character's trying to get home for Christmas or something. I'm like, that's not a Christmas movie. He's like, it's about Christmas. He's trying to get home to his family. I'm like, I don't care. It's not a Christmas
There needs to be parameters. What is a unique and quirky fact that we maybe don't know about each of you?
I have 2 that I pull out when I get asked these questions. My first is that I was buried in Vegas on 7/7/7, July 7th, 2007. And my other is that I was on an HGTV show when I was like 9 months pregnant with my daughter.
I know. I think I only have the one. I have twins and my sister has triplets. So then like, but it's not like in the family, it was fertility, but still, I mean, kind of weird.
Yeah.
And that's about all I have, I think. I can't think of anything else. I think there should be something else, but.
Do you have any other hobbies besides writing that you do?
I just picked up a new hobby like a couple weeks ago. So I'm trying to sew. And so I've been sewing and like kind of starting to try to make quilts. So that's like my new hobby.
Yeah, I have 2 kids that are in like outside sports, so I feel like I'm always doing something with that right now.
Running around.
I do crafts if I can, I will say. Like I got a diamond painting the other day, but yeah.
Yeah.
So I love those.
I know, right? I do love them too. I mean, sometimes at midway, I'm like, oh my God, but yeah.
Do you feel like you have a moment now since being writers for so long that where you're like, I've made it? Have you had that moment, do you feel?
No.
No.
Nope.
Still going?
Yeah, I'm happy where we're at. Like, I'm happy like that I don't have to work a secondary job, right? Like, but I still feel like.
Yeah, I've never had that like, yeah, we've made it moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's great. You can do that. You can do this full time.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was like, that's like great.
For sure.
That's wonderful. So, plans for future books. I know we have one coming out summer 31st. Yes. I'm excited about that one. But the next one is out. Isn't the next one out just shortly after the new year?
We got December 31st and then February 25th is the 3rd book in the hockey series. Yeah.
Was there any other plans for Rayne books coming out during that time?
We do. We can't talk about them yet, but we do have plans. Yes, we have lots of things in the works. It's just sort of how they're going to unravel at this point. We'll see.
Well, that's cool. We'll stay tuned for that. I'll follow their Instagram because I'm sure you'll hear the great news coming up. And then my last question is, what message do you want readers to take away after reading it?
That's a good one. I feel like the messaging for Piper Rayne versus P Rayne might be slightly different.
We can do both.
Yeah, I feel like P Rayne is probably like sometimes I feel like there's not always, but there's a general theme with that. Like that's maybe just because it's the things people are doing in those books are a little different. That's like maybe it's sort of like you're not the worst thing you've ever done. You know, that you can like mess up and like do something that's really not great, but it doesn't mean that you're a terrible person or that you always have to be that person, I guess, you know. For Piper,
I think for Piper, I think I would say that like, I don't know, like there's always people there for you. Like you're not going through life alone. Like I think we're big on like our found family are our family, right? So, you know, like if you're struggling, there's people around you that you can rely on.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. That's one of my favorite tropes is found family. I love so many people like maybe take that for granted that they can create their family.
Yeah.
So I feel like when you write it in books and you show it from all different points of views and different walks of life of people, like it doesn't matter what their backstory is, like as long as they're like, you know, coming together and they're supportive of each other, it really doesn't matter. That's what I feel like a lot for your books too. Like I get that a lot when I read it. Like it doesn't matter where you came from. It matters what you make of it.
Yes, right. Yeah,
Yep.
I'm thinking about Mr. Broody, and I feel like that's really like in that book. That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm excited for that book. The first book was so good, like the family dynamic, and you know, like I really loved that story. So I'm excited to see more from that series for sure.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Well, thank you both so much for joining me today. This has been great. I loved chatting with you both, and I wish you all the best success and amazing things in the future.
Thank you, Catherine. Appreciate it
so much.
Well, definitely like and subscribe. I'll put the link below on their website and Instagram so you can follow them. And if you do know them, I know you loved this interview as much as I do. And if you are new to them, welcome to a plethora of amazing books that you will love. So thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.